Should be going live pretty soon. All right, we are live right now. Just doing a little hiccup on my end. There we go. All right. Well, I'm here with, and I didn't get a chance to practice your last name, Steve Katsikas.
It's like that's a 92% correct pronunciation. Very, very good. Very good. The only little thing is you got to put the accent on the middle syllable. So it's Katsikas.
Katsikas.
There you go.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
A+.
Yeah, I was reading that, that's Greek, right?
It is. It's Greek for shepherd. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, my last name is German for fox. So yeah, from the old world.
The old world. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you very much for taking your time to come on here, and hope we talk about your music and you could promote it at the same time. And for those that don't know, Steve has been you may know him mostly from his band, Little Atlas. They have 4 CDs out. Let's see if that's going up. And then he was involved with Strattman. This one CD, really good. And his latest thing, I believe, Grackle. Let's see, let's get it so. And I notice how Grackle sounds like a little more, it's kind of like on par with Little Atlas. But it seems to have more instruments involved. And kind of maybe almost like the next evolution of the sound that you did on Little Atlas.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about Grackle. And it's different people than Little Atlas, so that's part of what sounds different.
And these are those 2 CDs are just all you have out right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The last one was 2018. And then I think I also heard you on your Facebook, mentioning you're working on a solo album, if that's not out yet.
Oh yeah, it got buried in the COVID. The COVID ate my solo album. It got released, but I got released right as COVID was sort of rushing into us. So, oops. That's how that goes.
Yeah. I noticed that a lot of musicians once that I forget which one I was talking to, that they were just about ready to go into the studio. They were doing rehearsals, and then they said, then it hit, and they thought, oh, it's going to be a couple weeks. It turned out a lot longer. And
yeah, I had finished it, and it was released, and then in the process of promoting it, when COVID hit, it's just very hard to get any traction, because I was focused on making adjustments in my life, and everybody else was too.
Oh yeah. That's I've been talking with other musicians that how it's affected And one kind of gave me, he said, you notice, he said, you're too young, but back when jazz was like the king, where it was in the public eye more, and then that faded off, and then rock and roll came in, and and he says it seems to go in waves of, you know, of that, and he says where people are, nowadays, because with COVID and then prior to that with doing all this digital media as opposed to, full albums, how we're used to, as we grew up, buying records, cassettes, CDs, and the younger generations are just more focused on, MP3s or, iTunes and things like that. And he seems to think it's going through waves, and that, as musicians, that we have to almost adapt to that. And I was just curious how you're adapting.
Um, I think that I've adapted in the sense that I understand that digital releases is where it's at. My solo album was almost exclusively a digital release. I did a small batch of signed uh, print, signed CDs to release, but most of it went out digitally. And we had seen with Little Atlas sales on the last two albums, it had gotten inverted in terms of physical sales and digital sales. So we made a determination that we were just going to put the music out in all the channels that we could. Um, I guess I could get resentful and talk about the Spotify's of the universe and how that's impacted our ability to recoup the costs of creating the music we want to create, but it also has extended our audience and ability to share. So I'm a bit mixed on that. As a consumer, I do like the ability to be able to create playlists and discover new music and have music suggested to me from independent artists. So that's it's a mixed bag, and I don't think it's had one iota of effect on me as I'm on anything I've done in a creative process. I still write music, I still record it, I still release it. I don't really think about the marketplace. It's just not where my head is.
Yeah, I, st- I'm sure like you, still when you, as a consumer, it's nice to have the physical media in your hand. Uh, I can't explain my reason for it because I know there's people that like that, that have albums, the full albums where, you got that big giant, if they come in gatefolds that, you have it in big letters, everything's big so you can read it, but it's like with the CD, it's like I like to be able to go to my CD library and just pull out the CD and put it, back when I had a, CD Walkman. I used to bring that and listen to my CDs that way. And then when you were able to burn CDs, I would make little compilations of favorite songs or a compilation of a band. If they had more than 3 albums, I would make like my own greatest hits CD so I can listen to, a variety of music, whether it's from the same band or different bands, And then now you have we have the little MP3 players where, you can carry more things. And then with me in my car, I have the thumb drive where I put albums on there. So I have like weeks worth of music that I don't have to bring the physical CD with me. But at the same time, as I own the physical CD, so it's like a best of both worlds in a way. And I just I mean, I like the technology, but at the same time, I also like to have the physical media, and that's also with movies because I know now you can back things up to the cloud, but things can go wrong, and uh, with the and if you got the CD, that's like the best backup you got. So it's like that's one of my way of thinking, but I do understand how it's easy to go to Spotify or was it Pandora? Those are the two big ones. Um, and and the one that I use the most is the Amazon Music because Amazon, when you buy certain CDs from them, they give you the MP3, so you can listen to it on their app. So I like that, but I primarily like to buy directly from the band because whenever I can, especially if the band is in the United States, where you got decent postage.
Yeah, I hear you, and I think a lot of bands appreciate that level of support. For me, it was a decision that, I mean, it costs so much money to manufacture CDs now, and you end up waiting a while to recoup that investment. And I just didn't, I lost out on distribution in Europe when I did it that way, just for kicks. But I just wanted to do a digital release.
Well, it's like I have, a friend of mine that he had a band that went back into the 90s, and he says, I just unearthed a little small crate of these CDs. And he says, I completely forgot that I had them. And it's like, and I told him, I said, put them up on eBay, market them as collector's items, because, I think it was like 94 or 95 or something like that. And, I mean, you just gotta, or a relic from the past, because it seems like there's a lot of people right now that love are into the retro, you know, which, albums, records, I have never, even when they were out originally, I was never into them because I was either afraid I was going to break them, like drop them, or scratch them. So I just never got into them. I had a few of them back in the day, but um, my my music was primarily on cassette, and then I was so thankful when CDs came out because I was just, the cassettes will always get eaten up, especially when you're, using the blank ones and recording stuff either off the radio or off of other cassettes. And at least with the CDs, you were able to sync the songs better. So I, but what else you got going on?
Working on some recording projects, not face-to-face ones, but so Grackle has not been playing since COVID. We were playing out pretty often as a band. Grackle's it's interesting instrumentation. It's keyboards, bass, drums, violin, and cello. That's our instrumentation. So it's got kind of a I don't know, a different sound. I like the strings a lot. I've just been really enamored with what that does. I'm playing almost exclusively piano or electric piano, but almost exclusively piano. So it gives kind of an organic feel. So folks can check that out if they like. I really don't see it as an evolution from what I was doing with Little Atlas. The Little Atlas albums were, kind of their own thing, and they were a lot of. It was the guys putting in all the ingredients together and kind of coming out that way, and so it was really never me. It was as an us kind of a project.
Right.
But I'm doing some writing with a good friend of mine, Alan Needham. We're working on an EP. Alan is the lead guitar player for the Dark Side of the Wall, which is the Pink Floyd recreation that I'm involved in. And we usually play once a year. We usually play a big theater show with the 9-piece band. 2 years ago, we played with a full orchestra, and that's sort of our big production. We do once a year, and this year this is the first year in a decade we haven't done it. So Alan and I are like, let's take all that energy we usually do in preparing for a show and put it into stuff. And Alan's a really good songwriter and idea bringer, and so we're enjoying doing that together. Some cool stuff's going to come out of that. It's definitely in the harder edge stuff, at least initially, is what it's sounding like. Kind of, I don't know. I've heard it compared to King's X. I think that's not a bad comparison. So that's pretty cool. So I've been working on that and doing some producing. I produced an album for the Anchorites, which is a local Louisville band that is just killer. A bunch of young guys who just dripping with talent. So I produced their album. It's getting a lot of airplay in college radio across the nation. They've gotten a lot of attention. So I think they're gonna be moving into that next level. And I just love that I got to work on their first 2 albums with them. So producing has been a fun COVID task for me. And I do tracking. Folks contact me. I do keyboard work for folks, and that's enjoyable too. So what I have not done though is, like, there was a few times in the spring when the weather was nice that Grackle came over and we set up on my back porch 6 feet apart and played outdoors. But then the weather changed, and that went away too.
Right. Well, it's like, now that, we don't know when live shows are going to really come back to how they were, if at all. Because, obviously we know that there's a good majority of people out there that are not staying 6 feet apart and are not wearing their masks. And I think those people are the reason why it's going to go on for longer than it should. And I spoke with other musicians. I was like, it'd be neat if someone can find an alternative. Now, if you do it where you have someone film it and if you broadcast it over the internet, like you were doing on your backyard porch thing, and just have like a small group of people that that are, they're safe, and that way at least you can get some exposure out there. I know it won't be the same, but it's, how do you say, it's better than nothing, and and then also too, it's like for the people that let's say, in your area, and you're only playing, Grackle's only playing in your area, but someone, let's say either on the other side of the country or the other side of the world wants to see you, but in pre-COVID, that's expensive. So another thing that doing it virtually is those people in the different areas of the country or world will be able to see you, unfortunately you won't be able to feed off their vibe of them clapping or cheering. But again, it's like, I think it's an evolution that we need to do. Someone needs to.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't done much of that where I'm watching a live streamed band perform. I've certainly watched a lot of shows that bands have recorded and released, and that's been enjoyable. I can watch that on my own time. I can pause it, watch 3 or 4 songs, take a break. I think that there's been a couple of music festivals that have tried to kind of get into that vibe, and that's pretty cool. But it's just not the same for me. I think it isn't the same for anybody, because part of seeing live music is just the fact that it's a social experience, and it's a shared experience. It's a real-time shared experience. And yeah, so, I hope you're wrong in the sense that that we do get back to it sooner than later.
I'm hoping so too, because uh, me myself, I haven't attended any kind of live music uh, experience since 2012. Mostly it's financially, and then also due to my health issue, and then we wound up, and then on top of it all, locally, there's no scene here in Maine.
Right.
It's usually either country, which I'm not knocking it, or hip hop, the same thing, or a lot of these classic rock bands are doing their revival shows,
Tribute.
and yeah, and some of them I would like to see, but not for the, where it's on days that I'm unable to attend regardless. And but you know, so for me to get to see a live show, a decent one, I would have to travel out of state. And the tickets for concerts, especially for rock shows, aren't the the big expense. The big expense is the travel and hotels, because you're not getting your money's worth when you stay in a hotel, when you go to like a festival like Ross Fest, or back in the day, Near Fest, or any of the other ones. You're not getting, it's like almost like it's you're paying for a storage unit.
Yeah.
Store your clothes there, and a little place for you to shower and maybe get an hour or two sleep before the next day starts. So it's like that's the other thing. So it's like, Robert was saying in the room, he was saying, I hope possibly live with a limited audience and streamed. I mean, again,
Yeah.
you know,
That's the closest thing, isn't it? That's about what we have now.
yeah,
I'll tell you, in my community in Louisville, Kentucky, there are bands playing out every night. Um, I don't know. I don't know what their audiences have been like. I'll tell you, they're largely maskless because they're putting on their live streaming, and I'm just like, oh, I can't really go there. I mean, I'm not what I would consider in a risk population, but my wife is with some asthma and related bronchial issues, and I'll feel differently, I think, when we get vaccinated. But yeah, it's a bummer. Can we talk about something happy? Let's talk about something happy, Ron.
well, happy is like, well, happy.
Like, what's some of the
I
cool
do.
stuff you've been listening to lately? Like, have you found something that's like, oh my God, this is awesome?
Well, I rediscovered, there was it's primarily an instrumental act called "At War with Self,"
Hmm.
and I'm gonna talk with the guy Glenn, who's the lead musician in it. He's uh, I want to say it kind of has like a variety. Like, it has progressive, it has metal, it has jazz, it has acoustic, like folk music in it.
Hmm.
Um,
Where are they from?
um, I believe they're on the East Coast somewhere. I want to say New Jersey, but I'm probably gonna get that all wrong. I spoke with him a few times online, and we have very similar um, musical tastes. Like, growing up in the mid '80s, I was into that thrash metal scene, and he was like going, "Hey, same here," So it was like, it's always nice to find someone that you you got a musical kinship to.
Yeah.
And also too, it's like, I I always look at what people are recommending on Facebook for music to listen to. Like, two of bands I had never even heard of before. Last year, they're from the late 70s, early 80s. One's called Trillion, and the other one was called Zon. And Zon is from Canada, and kind of have they both kind of have like a stick vibe to it.
Mm,
Um, and a lot, and then also too, I've just been kind of going back into my childhood and getting, um, revisiting things. Like I was saying, the thrash metal. I've been revisiting a lot of like Anthrax, Metallica, Megadeth. I want to kind of go deeper into it because I had bands that were lesser known that I was always listening to. So it's like, but for the most part, I've just been, I've been getting some new items, but mostly it's been kind of like filling in the gaps and also, you know, getting things that I may have missed the first time around.
gotcha.
How,
Gotcha.
how about yourself?
Yeah, I've been trying to keep up and quote discover new bands. Have you heard of a band? I'm going to say the name of this band wrong. They're called Sivert Hoyum. Have you heard of that? Sivert Hoyum.
Oh,
They're Scandinavian. Their songs are in English, but they're very much, gosh, they're kind of in the elbow, which is another band I absolutely adore, in kind of realm. Except they're a bit heavier than Elbow is, a little more atmospheric than Elbow. So that's a really cool band I've been enjoying quite a bit. And really just been listening to a lot of the Deer Hunter, just really enjoying that music very much.
I've
Um,
been, I had that at one time on my wish list and they kept that, going out of stock. And so I just took it off the list because I think they had, where they compiled the first two albums together on one release or something like that.
they have a bunch of different projects. There's a set series of album called The Acts, which is like Act One, Act Two, Act Three, Act Four, Act Five, which is I think it tells a story. It's a kind of a concept series, and then done another few of those kinds of things. But I just really like what they bring. It's really creative and interesting. Lives within pop sensibility with a lot of experimentation and styles. Very hard to pigeonhole. So that's cool. Um, I think there's a Louisville band that I think everybody should check out. I'm not just saying that because they're from Louisville. I actually liked them before I learned they were from my backyard. Called Dirt Poor Robins.
Uh,
Have you heard them or heard of them?
no, I haven't.
Man,
No.
they're super cool. And they've got a number of albums out. There's this trilogy called Dark Horse Alaska, which is their latest 3 EPs, which is actually one really long concept album that they put out as 3 EPs. Folks need to check out Dirt Poor Robins. They are super cool. It's a husband-wife core. They are both amazing singers, especially the wife. And Neil, who's the main songwriter, producer, engineer, plays all the instruments or almost all the instruments. And he and I got to meet, have some coffee, and talk about music. So that's a band I'd highly recommend. Dirt
Yeah.
Robins. Robins like the bird. Robins.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Um, I'm always into getting new music. And I've noticed as I'm getting older that I'm a little more open. I'm not, I used to be at a certain time, maybe 25 years ago, I would only listen to progressive rock. I didn't like anything else. And that's what, again, where I missed out on things that came out. Like in the 80s, I missed out on a lot of stuff because I was only into thrash metal. So it's like now that I'm older and I'm seeing everybody talking about stuff from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, bands that is like I should, if my mind was a little more, I had a little more open mind to music, I think I would have enjoyed them the first time around. So I'm kind of coming late to the party, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of great word of mouth, through, friends and networks on social media where you can hear about it, and it just oftentimes a click away to just check something out. Um,
Oh yeah. Well, that's why you were saying, where Spotify, also YouTube, especially if bands do videos, whether it's a music video or a live video, get to see them, because I've seen several of your little live video clips up there,
Yeah, on the solo
so
album, I deliberately created, I think it was 3 or 4 videos to support the live out for to support the solo album. Um, so those are out there if folks want to take a peek at them. And the name of the solo album is called Hidden Village. But if you were just to look up Steve Katsikas, it's the one and only solo album, which I did last year.
you know um I think nowadays with all the technologies, you can make your own little music videos, where years ago you had to have like a little crew, you know, and because I've seen some really, really imaginative videos out there, lately, even before COVID happened, just a lot of independent artists doing their to help promote their music. And I mean, the other thing that people are using, and I'm sure you are too, is Bandcamp.
Um,
Um,
mm,
you know, I bought a few things off of there. Different. Um, like I was saying earlier, I prefer physical media, but there's been a few things where because I know the person personally, know them personally, that I bought their digital release, um, and while I prefer, physical CD, I understand, costs going behind it, like you were saying earlier, that, sometimes you sit on the CDs for a while, whereas the digital, it's instant, you're instantly making your money.
yeah. Yeah, and back when Little Atlas was releasing albums, I'm thinking back to like our first and second album, the Surface Serene and Wanderlust. We would, record them, we'd have them mastered, we'd have them manufactured, and we would ship big boxes to the record labels, the record label that we were on, initially Prog Rock and then on 10T Records. And then they would
Right.
kind of go into the world and go to the different stores and the distributors and get sold. And then we were on to the next thing. We didn't really have to think about it. And when when the labels went under, and then the digital distributor, not digital, the CD distributor companies, they're still around, some of them, but they're largely, they don't purchase as many. That sort of went away. We had to shift what we were doing. And so we saw, we had a lot of CDs made, but we just saw lots more digital sales. And what's been interesting about the solo album that was like surprising, I did not expect it, is I made available for $1 more a high resolution 24-bit version of the album. And that has outsold just for people are interested in just getting a higher resolution, which is great, because like that's the way I want people to hear it, like that highest level audio experience. And so that's been
Oh
surprising.
yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it's like for me, the music listener, I like to hear the best quality that's available, so I can be able to enjoy it, and then I think it's also depending too on the system that you're listening to. Like in a car, it's such low quality in the cars, unless you're one of those people that like to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on your stereo system,
Right.
So I've known quite a few people like that spend more money on their on their sound system than they do on their on their uh, on their actual car.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, so you can just basically the power will break down, but you'll have a killer sound in it. But I it's really everything I think is, and on just like with movies. Okay, you had the VHS, then you went to DVD, and then now to Blu-ray, and then they have the 4K out, and it's like people are, but the spacing between VHS to DVD was a few, I think 2 or 3 decades, I want to say, and then between DVD to Blu-ray was like smaller time, and now 4K was coming out just as pretty much as Blu-ray was coming out, and I hear on the horizon that there's 8K and 10K, and it's like, for that kind of a thing is where do you stop? You need to see the person's the pupils, or on their face. You want to see the kid's pimple. Is it really that important?
Yeah, I mean, I can hear the difference between 16 and 24-bit recordings. I cannot see, and I can see the difference, I'm sorry, between like 4K and 8K when I go to the Costco and see the TVs. Like, oh, that's
yeah.
Oh yeah, like I feel like I can walk into it. But I don't think I could hear the difference between 24-bit and some 96, K. Like I think that's, you can make it more higher resolution, but I don't think it adds anything to it. And Robert in the chat room looks to be a super audio system guy. That's what he's saying.
If I had honestly the space and the money, I think I would have would get like a really good stereo system. I would get into some records. I don't think I'll get I got about 1,000 CDs. I don't think I'll get all of them on record, but I would get like the essentials on record. But I barely have enough room for my CDs and my movies. My girlfriend can attest to that. She's more into the movies I buy than the music that I buy. Got completely different taste, but there's some stuff that she will listen to, but like most of the mainstream public, it's like if it goes over a certain length of time, um, she kind of gets bored with songs that go over like 5 or 6 minutes. It's just after that she becomes uninterested in it. And I think that's except for us, people in progressive rock, mainstream music people don't, they don't have the, I hate saying it, the attention span for longer pieces. And so that's why it's kind of, I think it's kind of neat when bands can put, a lot of interesting sounds within, a short minute amount of time. And that's what, especially in your little Atlas stuff, you don't have like you didn't have those like, what I call the super epic, 20, 30-minute songs, that you said it, uh, in songs that were under the same information in something of a 30-minute song. You said it in a, I don't remember what song. I think it was off of Surface Serene. The first song that came out where it was about 3 or 4 minutes, somewhere up there, and it's like
the song
it had a lot. Yeah, it had a lot of stuff going on there, for that short of a song. So it's like
we weren't much for extending things to extend things. It wasn't how we approached it. We were when we were in the writing mode and we're all working together, we were pretty we often have to ask the question, does this like enhance the song? Like, why do we have to go and do this part again? We've already done it. Like, so I don't mind long form songs when they grow and develop and have a place to go. So I think about Ekelund's Mine, which is an album long
Oh
experience
yeah.
of a single song, and it's a masterpiece. It takes you someplace, it reconnects the dots, it develops the ideas slowly. It needed to be long. It wasn't intentionally long in the sense that it wasn't long to
Right.
be long. It was as long as it needed to be to do what it needed to do. And so
Right.
that's the
And
goal.
I also, whenever I listen to it, it was like when I get to the end, and it was like it felt, even though it was like 50 minutes long, it didn't feel like it. It
That's
felt, because like you were saying, it just did everything exactly perfect.
Yeah, that to me is the ultimate living room floor song. But you put on your headphones, your highest, your best headphones, you get a nice pillow, you lie on the floor in the living room, and it's just you project yourself into it, and it's just that experience. It's magical. Still is.
Well,
I listen to that album probably once every other month.
all right, the same here. And when a few years back, when I was in the hospital, when I had my heart surgery, um, I had my tablet with me, and I just was looking up for something to listen to, and uh, the live version of it, where they had like, the little string section with them, and I listened to that, and I don't know what it was, but to me, music is so spiritual to me, where it can dig right into you, and bring you to a better place. And I felt, um, it was just, I don't know why I picked that song to listen to at that time, but it just felt, so I told Chris about that, and he was like, and he thanked me so many times. I even did one of these shows with Chris and Brett, with them, and it, we got a lot of information, that it was like a journey, you know, and I think that it could also be the perfect road,
For sure.
you know.
Yeah. You put it on, and sometimes like, you're halfway across whatever state it is you're trying to cross when the album's over. Get you a long way. Get a lot of miles out of that song.
Oh yeah, and that's when a long song should be a long song. I do know there's a lot of bands out there that they figure, I'm a progressive rock band, so um, I need to create a couple 15-minute songs, maybe a 20-minute song, and it's like I like it when it comes natural to it,
Yeah,
and
I do.
you can hear it when it's natural,
Yeah.
and then you can hear forced, where it's like, with Pro Tools, it's like you can do it a lot easier, just a lot of starts together things, and then next thing you know, you go, okay, I have my prog credentials now. I made a 30-minute song, and it's like, only if it comes out naturally.
Well, for sure. Yeah. It'd be unfortunate if someone's approach is, all right, step one, write a 30-minute song. Step two, what's going to be in it? I don't, yeah, it's not the right way to do it.
Yeah, it's like I like it when it's natural,
Yeah.
and that's why it's like the one of my favorite British progressive bands is IQ,
Mhm.
and they had, off of their first album, they had a song that was like not even 3 minutes long, and that was so busy, I couldn't, and so progressive that it's like, in under 3 minutes, and it's like, so it's like, one time I spoke with the keyboard player over at Do you remember hearing of the Prog Fest out in Los Angeles?
Prague West was it called?
They had before Prog West, it was Prog Fest,
I was kind
and
of
back
before I
in
was familiar with it, like that there was an actual scene, so wasn't aware of that.
yeah, well, in '97, John Wetton came out and played there, and the keyboard player from IQ played in his band. And after that night, I was talking with him, and I'd always asked, at that time, I was like, you got to have epic songs, And I asked him, I said, so do you guys plan on writing another 20-minute song? And he says, we don't go in it with that idea. We just, if it happens, it happens. You know,
Mm.
it's not important enough for us to deliberately make a 20-minute song. He says all the song lengths are accidental. It just they they end when they end, you know. And
Is that Martin?
yeah, Martin Orford.
Yeah,
Yeah, really nice guy. I mean,
he's really
I
nice.
think
I
that's
got to meet him at one of the Rosfests. I think one of the ones I played at. Got to meet him, and he was very, very nice at the time. We had a conversation about the changing music industry too, that I remember to this day. He was, and he got more. He's made a lot more comments and gotten more involved, I think, in sort of the big picture about what it means to, because he's a professional musician. I mean, that's how he pays his bills and makes his living. So this is,
right.
has a major impact on him.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I really feel for the bands that were, they were in it full time, and while they don't have the budgets or the fallback that the bigger rock bands have, they still have, they were still making good money, and then, now they can't really do a live scene anymore, or, you know, again, like I know I said it's going to be, I think it's going to be extended, and it's not because I want it to be, it's just because everyone else is not contributing to making us a safer a place, because musicians and TV, I've seen the impact on some TV shows where it's still the same show. Well, you got the same actors and everything like that, but the way everybody's spaced apart, you're not getting that intimacy in the same way, bands aren't getting that intimacy of whether it's in a club or
Yeah.
or a theater or an arena, they're not getting that intimacy. So it's like,
Yeah. I mean, the good news is that there's great music that was made that was overlooked. It didn't percolate to the surface. That's we can go back and discover that was made. Of course, there's like if no one ever wrote a new book, I'd never run out of anything new to read, because there's always great books that I haven't read yet. And then there's films that I hadn't seen. So I've really been using the pause of COVID to kind of go back and see if I've missed anything. In addition to using some time I have to develop my own sort of work on my own skills or collaborate through virtually with some peers, things like that.
I mean, the plus side of COVID happening in 2019, as opposed to maybe 20 years prior or even 30 years prior, is all of these streaming sites, that we could watch movies on and stuff like that. We didn't have that, and Zoom and Skype and all that. We didn't have that 20, 30 years ago.
Yep.
So it's like, we have the technologies where at our disposal that, okay, maybe you can't go visit your friend that's maybe the next state over, but you can talk to them on Zoom. And maybe you can't, and I've even seen some of these streaming sites have these things called watch parties, where you can invite someone over and you guys can watch the movie at the same time wherever you're at.
Yep.
And you can chat about it.
Yeah, you can chat about it. So it's approximating our previous experience. I'm a professor of psychology, and I've been teaching online since COVID hit. Um, Having done a little bit of online teaching before, but not exclusively. And I've morphed and adapted and found some ways to turn lemons into lemonade from doing it. Um, but I do miss the real time interaction in a real space with the students, being able to read their body language to see if they're getting it or not. Um,
Right.
so there's all those pieces, and you're right. We are fortunately, there's some backup plans in terms of the way we can connect with each other that we wouldn't have been able to do 30 years ago. But if COVID had hit 30 years ago, I do not think we would have hit the pause button in the same way. I think if COVID hit 30 years ago, people would have we would have lost a lot of loved ones because folks didn't have another way to do their jobs or learn things like that. And so,
right.
yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about the history of what happened in 1918, but I think part of the reason that so many people died was because you couldn't sit there and there was no backup plan for the economy. There was no
Right.
backup plan for manufacturing. There was no backup plan because we weren't a service economy back then. So,
Well, I did read about the 1918 pandemic where one of the big surges is when World War One was when it was won, that people all going out in the streets and celebrating, and not. But the social distancing thing has been around since then, so it's like it's not like a new thing.
Correct. Yeah. No, I mean, the things we're supposed to do, the behaviors we're supposed to change is it's not new science. It's not new wisdom. It's how human beings have managed pandemics across time. And it is a puzzle on how good behavior, good community behavior has become politicized. But it has been, and I think you're right. I think we're going to elongate the hurt, the pain points of this, because we're not all willing for 6 months, or sorry, 6 weeks is what I've heard, to just buckle down. But I'm paid to it's not my field, so I follow what my doctor tells me.
Right. I mean, I go to dialysis 3 times a week. I do exactly what they tell me, and when I go grocery shopping, if I don't see someone with a mask as I'm going down that aisle, I back myself up and I go to another aisle. I don't want to be one of these people that you see on YouTube that are confronting others,
Yeah.
And I just want to do my shopping, be left alone, get to the register, and get out and come home.
Right.
I mean, I don't go out if I don't have to. I think a lot of people are, again, if we were in a true quarantine or a true lockdown, you wouldn't be able to leave your house. They would make it like that where you cannot leave your house. So it's, I think a lot of the wording is wrong, and I think it's kind of scaring people more by using maybe those were 1920s terminology, lockdown, quarantine,
Yeah.
and a lot of those are from, I think I want to say they're also from movies, because you see a lot of these pandemic movies and epidemic movies where, they say we're locking it down. It's like, if we're really in true lockdown, each state would have their borders completely, with guards on it, something out of, what is it,
Like Escape from New York.
Yeah, Escape from New York type of a situation. And it's like, so it's like, I think we need to understand that you can go outside in your yard and, if you have children, and they can go and play. Only thing, you can't play with other children. that's the downside, you know. But you can still go outside and play. You're not stuck inside, you know, except if you're, you know, you're in a place with extreme weather conditions that, you know, you don't want to be outside. But I think with the, you know, we'll go back to music and media in general, you know, we got a lot of stuff that's available to us. I think now more than ever, especially with movies. I remember a day when people were complaining there's not enough uh, re-releases of movies coming out. Now every month there's at least from the newsletters I'm on, there's at least 30 coming out, and it's like there's absolutely, unless you're a millionaire or a billionaire, there's no way you're going to get everything. And it's also the same with music. There's absolutely no way you're going to get every single release that comes out, whether a new release or, you know, something from previous years. So it's like, but you can get close, you know, get pretty close.
And you know, and who has the time to listen to everything that comes out? That's, you know, it's part of the, you know, the reality of so many releases. You know, so I rely on people I know who like what I like to, you know, hey, check this out. Hey, check that out. And sometimes it clicks and sometimes it doesn't. But I certainly don't have time to go finding everything. You know, that's probably it's probably the same with my music that's out there. Like people haven't heard it because they don't know it's out there.
And that's why, you know, what I hope with my shows is to help bring, you know, even maybe if it doesn't do it today, these shows are all uploaded to YouTube, to my YouTube channel. So if you don't see it today, don't worry about it. You know, it'd be fantastic to get a little live audience. You know, we had a couple people in the room, um, but they can watch it, rewatch it at their leisure on YouTube. You know,
Yeah, that's
and
my
it's
hope
gonna,
that folks do have like I want folks to listen to the music, and you know, if it's not doesn't float their boat, that's okay too. But would love for folks to find it. You know, I don't want to. You know, I want to. I want to connect with folks who are listening to it, just like I've been able to connect with folks who I've enjoyed their music. Um, so if folks are listening and wanting to check out what I've done, you know, check out, kind of do Little Atlas in reverse. Start with Automatic Day and work your way back. If you want to check out my solo album, it's called Hidden Village. It's got some songs on it that I think would have fit nicely on a Little Atlas album. If you like something that's a mellower affair, you know, check out Grackle. And yeah, that's my hope.
yeah, there's a lot of great music, you know, you've done, you know, um, and each one of those you know, project bands are different. So it's not like, you know, I'll give one example. Genesis. After it was down to the three guys, and then when Phil went to do his solo albums, I never saw. I mean, his solo stuff sometimes sounded like Genesis stuff, and his Genesis stuff sounded like his solo stuff. So it's like, I think the whole purpose of doing something, whether it's a different band or if you go solo, is to do something different than what you've already done. And that's what on each of, you know, Little Atlas, Grackle, and that Strattman, and then I'm gonna check out your solo album. They're all of them are different, you know, and I think that that's important because that shows it's on, to me it's on two fronts. It shows that the band or the artist is creative enough to do something different, and then from an audience standpoint, I don't feel insulted. It's like, okay, well, you could just going to do the same music, but just do different names and try to sell me on all these different projects, you know. And it's like, you know, it's the same sound. And I mean, that's just my, my opinion on that is that I like when the musicians challenge me as the listener to each release. Let's say if you don't want, just like with Little Atlas, each album sound different than the previous one. You have your signature sound, but it's different. You're not retreading the same songs each album, and that's what I like when I hear music, is when the musician is basically saying, okay, well, this is something else. I have more up my sleeve than just these 10 songs.
Yeah.
So it's like that. That's how I look upon bands that, it's like I like bands that challenge me musically. you know I like that they stay, they have their signature sound, but then, like when bands that they're just like the basic drums, bass, guitar, keyboards with a singer, and then maybe the next album they add in uh, a violin player or a cello player, so something like that, where they change it up. They're not going to stay in the same album redone over and over.
Yeah. Well, it's not interesting. It's like if you've been there and done it, you have the luxury I have of not relying on music to put your kids through college and things like that, and feeling that pressure of sticking with some formula. Um, it's cool to be able to stretch your wings, try something new. If you're not failing, you're not trying too. So it's important, I think, to do stuff and see where it goes, and leave it on the editing room floor. But that stretches you as a musician. Um, I'm thinking back to this is probably something you don't know about. Have you heard of the band French TV?
I heard of them.
Yeah.
I never heard them.
So French TV, it's a Louisville-based band. They have 15 albums. 15 albums have been
Wow.
released. And I had a chance to perform on album number 10. And it's all instrumental music. Um, and in doing it, my goodness, it stretched me to new places as a musician. It was jazz rock. It was very much in a Zappa kind of mode. Um, and I got to really use lots of different sounds, lots of lead, lots of comp, stretch my writing chops, um, and then got to perform it at Prog Day in North Carolina. But that's the kind of thing, like, had I not done it, I wouldn't have like opened places in my mind downstream. And it was only one album that I did with them, but it was, super glad I did it. And I think for musicians, finding opportunities to work with other musicians that are maybe not so like-minded, producing, working with young bands, like all those things just sort of stretch you and really kind of open up new channels.
Right. Yeah, because I've noticed too, it's like I have listened to, now, the most interesting bands I've listened to in the past were that I think are in French TV, also part of that RIO scene as well.
For sure. Yeah, rock and
So
composition. Yeah, herky jerky,
so
kind of like long compositions. I describe some songs as they're like soundtracks to cartoons you've never seen. Like they really,
right.
it's really kind of this explosive, kind of manic, but with lots of interesting sounds. Key figure in that band is Mike Sari. He deserves some credit. And one of the connections is that the drummer that Mike has worked with over for many years, Jeff Guard, is Grackle's drummer. Jeff and I are friends, and he's
Oh
been
wow.
and we formed Grackle together. But Grackle has nothing in common with French TV except the two of us as people. It's not
Right.
instrumental. It's not anywhere. It doesn't dabble in that, rock and opposition sort of world. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
a few of my yeah, a few of my favorite bands of that genre, Universe Zero,
Yeah, I like them. I saw
um,
them live at one of the near fests and was very impressed.
and a friend of mine sent me file Thinking Plague, one
That's
of
another
their
one. Yeah, I think they're even more
uh,
challenging. Thinking like even more challenging to listen to. But
yeah, and what was it? The offshoot of Universe Zero, Crescent? Is that how they pronounce it?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, and I I think those are the only ones that I really got into. But I like Universe Zero, how they have like that creepy factor to it. So it's like, I mean, excellent Halloween time music to listen
Yeah.
to. And
And it's a chamber rock approach. So they've got,
yeah,
instruments that aren't normally in rock, and um, they'll use things like accordions but they have a drummer and a bass player typically, and so they have some rock instrumentation and some non-rock instrumentation, and it comes together in a composed and very cool way.
now there was one of the songs that the first time I heard it, I always listen to it on the headphones so I can get the full get it all into me. And one time I was listening to it and I had the lights out, and it's not music to listen to alone with the lights out.
Well,
That's really
it did its job. It pushed an emotional button in you, and
yeah, and that's what I think music does. It pushes different buttons at different times. That's why I really I try to always promote people to try something, a genre of music that you never tried before, and if you don't like it, at least you can say I tried it. Like for me, two genres that I tried but I really didn't like was country and um, the rap music, and its subgenres, like hip hop and stuff.
yeah.
I listened to it when I was working at a record store. We had a manager there that this guy listened to almost every single genre, sometimes in the same day when we're working a 10-hour shift, anywhere from like uh 1920s jazz to, at that time it was in the 90s, so to NWA, it's like, and everything in between. It's like this guy had a wide range of music taste, and he turned me on to a lot of stuff. The one thing that he turned me on to was King Crimson, because he was playing Red in the store, and he did that because he really got tired of me and this other guy. All we were doing was playing like I said, the thrash, Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, all that constantly. And he was like going, "Here, try this out. I think you're gonna like it because it has the same almost angst to it." And I listened to it. I was like going, that was a game changer for me. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I asked him when the day was over. I said, "Is this CD for sale?" Because it was behind the counter, for a playlist. And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, I want it." So that was like I would say my first true musical epiphany of sorts, and that was started me down the rabbit hole.
Mm.
It had to listen to new stuff every time, and when friends or I see mentions online about different new musics, and it sparks an interest, I like, go and listen to them on YouTube if they got a YouTube video, or Amazon Music, or whatever, whatever's I can find online, or if they put, you know, if they have sound clips on the band's website, I go there, and it's like, and if it really strikes me and hits a chord, like you said, emotionally, I get into it, and that's what I think a lot of people miss out because they're only staying within a certain genre, whatever the genre is. You know, it's like I I really think it's like that's the whole thing with music. You got so much out there to listen to that, you know, if you just only listen to the same band or the same genre all the time, you're missing out.
Yeah.
You're really missing out. And it doesn't have to be progressive rock,
No, of course not.
you know.
Most people really resonate with the music that they listened to when they were, between the ages of 18 and 22. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm guilty of that too. And I don't want to say guilty like it's a bad thing. But I have deliberately tried to continue to find, music that moves past that, or celebrates it in different ways. Um,
Right.
so a band like, what's another good idea? Another good band. Bent Knee, for example. Have you heard them?
I saw a couple of their videos on YouTube.
So that's a
Brilliant.
really that's a brilliant band doing very new things, taking lots of chances. Thank You Scientist is another band that's kind of infused sort of a ska sensibility into sort of progressive ideas with long songs and virtuoso musicianship. So there's a lot of people out there that are inventing and reinventing. It's very exciting.
Oh yeah, and I like that. But, that's the one thing, because a lot of people have always asked, why didn't, because of the music I listen to, why didn't you into like my thing is, um, I don't have the I tried back in now I go back to third grade. Uh, my parents wanted me to have extracurricular activity, but I wasn't into sports, and I was enjoying music. I like listening to the music that they were listening to on the radio, and one of my school teachers, he was doing guitar lessons after school.
Hmm.
So my mom said, okay, we do that. We didn't. They didn't have a guitar. They couldn't afford one, so they had a friend of ours um, played guitar in a choir, and she had a 12-string guitar. That's all she had. And for me to learn folk music on a 12 string was like, I think if I would have learned on a 6 string, I probably would have stuck with it. But a 12 string, it was like my hands were like getting in knots, trying to figure this out, you know. But so I kind of call myself, where you're professional musician, I'm a professional listener. I try to listen to as much, and while at the same time, I don't know every single uh like on guitars, all the effects. I couldn't tell you a majority of the effects and keyboards. I couldn't tell you what kind of keyboards you're playing. You know, I mean, certain things I can tell, like if it's a piano or an organ or a mellotron. Those are the three right off I can tell you. But anything else, I really couldn't tell you. Um, Drums, the same thing as like the basics and the bass player. So it's like because I have a lot of friends that when they critique a new album that comes out, they're going off talking about the equipment, and I'm almost like, and at that time it's like it's going right over my head.
Well, that's okay. I think that's a snooze fest conversation anyway. It's like being like a restaurant critic, and you're talking about how you think that they made the sauces. Like, who cares how they made it? It's the experience of when you're in the moment. So I see it too. There's a lot of, I don't know why it is in this genre. There's a lot of interest in the tools that are used to create. Um, but I've always found that to be just a little bit. Let me get blowback on this probably, but I use the word silly. Honestly, it's like the tools are just tools.
Right. Yeah. And it's just I think that can also go into the movie, because I've seen people with movies that are that they were like nitpicking about the colorations, and stuff. I said, do you actually sit down and watch the movie?
Yeah.
Or do in the same case with music, do you actually sit down and listen to the music? or are you just too busy interest on what they're playing, their instruments instead of their actual music coming out of um, their out of the speakers,
Yeah.
and
You
into
can't
your ears.
you can't do both at the same time. You can't sit there and listen with a goal of deconstructing what you're hearing and really be listening to the music. You're doing something. It's just not the same. You can't do both at the same time. And I think music critics, let them deconstruct music. Engineers, if they want to listen and critique a mix of another engineer, let them do it that way. But most people who are listening to to music are trying to connect with the musician and with the musician's vision for that particular song, those lyrics, the melody, the rhythm, all the elements, as a whole.
Well, yeah, and it's like I like when I get whether it's a song or if it's a concept album where you can close your eyes and you can almost see what the musician is trying to tell you, without being obvious, where it's like they're telling you what to see, they're opening up your mind so you can see things.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes it's kind of neat when you if you listen to we go back to that song May, that not everybody's going to get the same experience out
Sure.
of and their the audience's experiences be possibly be different than what the musician was trying to do, and then they hear it and it's like, oh well, that's a different kind of point of view. I never thought of it that way. And that's what I like about music, and I still, to this day, I love concept albums, especially when there's a really good story to tell. You know, I and especially the Wanderlust. That was a good, that kind of took you back to like the '70s style concept album.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, that's a different album for us. We created that album after playing those songs out live for about 18 months. And then we went into the studio, and that's why it sounds like four guys tearing it up. We didn't use a click track. We went in there and played it like we did some overdubs, but we went in there and played it like we were playing it. And that's the only album we created that way. The others were done more, writing for the album in the studio kind of a thing.
also it is one of my favorites. You know, while I like Surface Serene, the individual songs, you know, Wanderlust as a whole was good. Hollow, wasn't that? I just listened to it like a few weeks ago, and that was a different. Was it based on different psychologies or something like that, or
Yeah, it's based on different personalities types. Each song is a different sort of personality type, and every song's done from the first person, so it's a character study. So in a sense, it's not a concept album that tells a story from beginning to middle to end, but it basically covers a lot of a very narrow band of lyrical material.
that's the one thing, with progressive rock music, you get the most interesting subjects, that's, it's not like the traditional rock and roll where you talk about cars and girls and stuff like that. You get like, you get to, you guys make us think, you know.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things I like about the genre is that it's open-ended from a musician standpoint and a musical standpoint. It's not constrained in terms of the lyrical material that you can cover. You can really go anywhere with it without falling outside the boundaries. That's why it's so cool. And it's also why it's such a difficult to define, because the boundaries of what constitutes it are so diametrically opposed and far apart. Thinking Plague and IQ, living in the same tent doesn't make sense to most people, but they do fall under
Right.
sort of this broad umbrella. And it's one of the things that keeps me going back to that genre to find new music.
Other genres for me that I like, I think it's more not from a lyrical standpoint, but from music is two of them is art rock and then glam rock.
So under art, like would Styx fall into that sort of art rock?
I think they would. I mean, they kind of. I think they also fall into, I guess, what they call punk rock, where it's like just because they're so grand and out there, it's like, like all right in your face type of music, it's like they're not, I don't think they're like full on progressive rock, but they touch on it once in a while, like especially on that album Grand Illusion, that right there it touches on it. But art rock, like for me, art rock and glam rock are kind of almost like hand in hand, because there's bands like Roxy Music. There you go.
Actually, it's probably an octave up, right?
It has the progressive rock sound, but it's like it's very accessible.
Yeah, it is.
And but like Roxy Music, they kind of cross between art rock and glam rock,
Yeah.
and then you got
Moody Blues maybe and that sort of thing, or nah?
more. I'm not sure. And then you got one genre that I want to get into, and I've heard only a few things, is the jazz and jazz fusion. And I say jazz fusion because one of the guys on the chat, mentioned about Chick Corea.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you want
You
to, I'd make a recommendation. If you want to just put your toe into that, go to Return to Forever, like make that your starting place in the jazz fusion.
I've had a lot of people tell me that. I mean, I got a friend of mine from back home in California. He always sends me emails because he refuses to get on to Facebook, and I told him, you got it. There's
some people are like, not going to do it. No,
not going to do it. He's too 1990.
Yeah.
I do have one of the guys in chat mentioned Mahavishnu Orchestra. I do have those.
Yeah.
I do have that.
Weather Report. Those are great suggestions, Alexander, for somebody who's wanting to put their toe in it. Alan Holdsworth, his work, Aldo Meola, and there's some. It's a rabbit hole too in the jazz fusion, because it's you kind of jump into Chick Corea. You kind of jump into it, and you start to see the connections between the people that were creating that music and what they were trying to do. And I like some of it quite a bit. Pat Metheny is a winner. If you want to check him out too, his stuff is just masterful, and it just really kind of threads that jazz. And I mean, the tones are very rock. The approach, the melodies, the thing that kind of connects it is jazz. I mean, that's what the term fusion means.
Right. Yeah. And they also mentioned in the chat band Brand X, which I heard of, and I heard some of that when I was working at the record store. You played some of it, and I know they have some sort of a box set out now that keep on watching it, and how on Amazon prices fluctuate like so drastically from one day to the next. So it's like you just got to catch it on the right day and with the lowest price you can find it at.
I just pay my Spotify premium account and I can get it all. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like so there's so much out there, and I know with Jet, when I listen to like the Mahavishnu Orchestra, like Birds of Fire or that the Lost Trident sessions, it's like I have to be for that. I have to be in a certain mood, just like I have to be in a certain mood for pop music and progressive music and
Yeah.
hard rock and metal. It's like different different moods, for that. And and I think that's the beauty of music. It's like, if you're in a sad mood, you can find something for a sad mood. Um, oh yeah, Soft Machine. Yeah. I have a friend of mine whose band he started in the late 60s up in the Seattle area, and they kind of fashioned their approach music based on Soft Machine, and they even played with a lot of those like Canterbury artists later on, like in the past 15 years. They played with some of the great, was it Hugh Hopper, and I forget, he named a lot of different musicians that they played with. So it's like it, talking to him, it was like that he lived the late 60s and 70s of music. It's just so neat to get that information from someone that had lived that era, you know. Whereas some of us, we were too young.
Well, it looks like Alexander's got a long list of recommendations for you there. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. Alex has a lot of. He's another guy that has a lot of great, like widespread musical tastes too.
cool.
I mean, yeah, it's like you. That's the beauty of friends that are into music. You can get a lot of different recommendations.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says he's a fusion head.
Yeah.
That should have been your screen name.
Fusion Head.
So, so what do you have on the horizon for music wise?
So I hope to release this new EP with my good buddy Alan Needham, which I'd mentioned in the beginning of the interview is kind of it sounds a little like King's X. It's kind of hard edged, but it's got really accessible melodies, things like that. We're really enjoying putting that together. I'm not sure about another solo album. We'll see. I've got a few things in the hopper for that, but that'll happen if I get sort of a backlog of stuff that I want to set free that doesn't fit any of the other projects. Dark Side of the Wall, my Pink Floyd recreation, is hoping to do something in the fall or in 2022. Maybe we'll do another show with the orchestra, which was my favorite one. I scored it. Scored a 2.5-hour show with an orchestra, which was talk about doing things that expand you and cause you to grow. Creating sheet music for orchestra musicians was really exciting. So I hope to do that. Hope to keep producing. That's been a really fun angle for me too, is to work with young bands. They had been coming into the studio pre-COVID, doing the recording with them, and there's just something amazing. Like it reminds me of my first times in the studio, where like you can't believe like you created that. Oh my gosh, I recorded that. That sounds amazing, and just love working with young musicians as a producer. That's a cool hat to get to wear as well.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. I mean, that you get to give them ideas, and they kind of give you ideas, stuff you never
That's right.
thought of. So especially if everybody in the is open-minded to allowing each other to kind of give each other something back and forth. Because you do get some people that have egos, and they don't want to listen to you. They just want you to, okay, you're just a producer. You just do the producing job. That's it.
Yeah. Or just engineer. I just want you to move the things to make it sound.
Yeah.
No, most of the folks I end up working with, we have a conversation, in advance, and I asked them, what do you want my role to be? Do you want me to like have a critical listening role? Like I hear something that's not working in my opinion, I let you know, or you just want me to keep quiet and just move the sliders and you have 100% control? Like, how do you want me to be involved? What do you want my role to be? That's an important place to, to start when you're going to have a relationship with folks, to create music, because if you don't have those initial conversations, then you can be in a place where you misunderstand each other. And when I'm in that role, wearing that hat, my goal is to help them make the best thing that they can make. It is far from imposing my will on them, but occasionally they're like, "Hey, you hear something? Let us know. You hear a sour note. You hear a chord that doesn't work. You hear an idea that's not clicking." And so that's how that usually goes.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people on Facebook that there's doing a lot of producing, mixing, also all sorts, or remastering things, you know, and then these kind of things that like what I'm doing and what I'm sure a mutual friend of ours, Sean Toner, he does, obviously he has a bigger address book than I do, but
Yeah, he's been bringing on some pretty heavy hitters, hasn't he?
I know, and it's fantastic that he is, and I'm bringing on people that I dealt with, when I was doing the CD reviews, and whereas I hit a certain point when I was doing that about 6 years ago, and on October 2015, um, I had was I say that was the beginning of my serious health issues. I had a TIA, and at that point, I couldn't concentrate on trying to listen to the music and doing a good decent long review of stuff. And I can tell on the last um, like from when I got back into doing it for a little bit, and then in April 2016, I just basically I said call it a day, and but doing these things, it is helping me kind of get my mind back to somewhat, back to that space before. Um, Once in a while, I'll do a CD review on here. I just don't want, and like I posted on my Prognaut page on Facebook, I said, don't send me um, promos, anything. I said, because I got a good 1,000 CD collection that I can go and pick something out and I can review it, especially something that I always wanted to review, but I was so busy with, submissions coming in, so now it's like I got a little bit of that time that I can do it, only if, and if it hits me, to the point where it's like, oh, I have to tell people about this CD, there's no, question.
Yeah. Well, I've appreciated your interest in Little Atlas and the work, going way back to the very beginning, and I just want to say thanks for your support for the music.
Oh, you're welcome. No, you're welcome. You know, I would, I mean, what was it? The first time was the first album, and were you on Prog Rock Records at the time, or was that a independent release?
No, that was, let me think how that went. No, that was released on Prog Rock Records.
Okay.
It was a crazy time for us because we were making this album. We had we had a song that we floated a few months before the formal release. George heard it and invited us to Rozfest. Sean heard it and wanted us to be we were the first band, the very first band he signed to that label when he was operating it. So it was kind of cool we were not overnight successes. We'd been playing out for 5 years as a band, playing, twice a month, all over South Florida. So it's we didn't even know what we were. We didn't even know like there's something called progressive rock that had been sort of reinvigorated, and that people were getting connected online. Totally missed that was going on. We were just doing what we were doing.
Right. I think that's when you go in purposely under a label. I don't know. Sometimes it feels a little forced,
Especially when it's called prog rock records. My goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
I wouldn't have called it that, but it's Sean's deal. So.
Oh yeah, I used to get a lot of stuff from his label, and then when you guys moved over to 10T, I used to get stuff from them, and I think the last thing I got from 10T was Hollow.
Yeah, and then we released Automatic Day, but not on. Well, did we release that on 10? I'm trying to remember the time frame. I think we did release that on 10T, but 10T sort of shuttered up not long after that album. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like nowadays it's like it's easy. I think it's easier just to release it on your own because then you have your full control.
Yeah, but man, going to the freaking post office to send CDs out, like that is the bane of, like I told you, I made 100 of the Hidden Village solo album CDs, and it was a hassle factor, man, to go to the post office once a week to mail them out. I did not enjoy that at all.
Right.
I'd rather split the money with somebody else willing to do that for me.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, I think the first time for me that I got into progressive rock, but I didn't know it was until over a decade later. On my birthday in 1980, a friend of mine gave me a cassette, Rush Permanent Waves, and I never heard of that band before. And why is he giving me this? Because, my music tastes back then were just whatever was on the radio, and it was more of top 40 radio than album rock radio. And that was the first time I got something from a progressive standpoint. And then later on, in the early 80s, I had two cassettes that I used to wear off, was Classic Yes and Queen's Greatest Hits. Those were the two I used to wear out. And I think I had like maybe 2 or 3 copies of those over the course of time. And then I got into buying their other stuff. But it's like, I never knew, with Yes, I never knew. I just thought that was just different sounding rock,
Yeah.
And same with ELP when, I had their first cassette. I was like going, I mean, this sounded like dare I say almost heavy metal-ish, but not like the 80s heavy metal, but like it's, kind of like a more thinking man's Black Sabbath-ish, because it was just the distortion and everything that was going on.
It was aggressive. It was aggressive.
Yeah, and I was like going, but then again, it's like I didn't know until the 90s, the early 90s, that it was progressive rock when I went to the first Prog Fest in 1993, and that's where I saw IQ for the first time.
Oh.
And then another band that played there was Anglo-Guard.
Oh, I love that band.
Yeah, and they had 2 other bands there. I think one was called Quill, but they were like almost like an ELP ripoff. And I forget the other one was almost like a fantasy thing because they were dressing up like knights and kings and queens, that had a replica of Excalibur on their stage or something like that, and it's like, it was just a really bad rock up is what I could remember. But those 2 bands from that point on, I went to all the Prog Fest ones in Los Angeles, and And when I moved out here to the East Coast in Maine, I've been to two festivals. I went to one in Pittsburgh called 3RP,
Remember that?
and then Ross Fest. And those are the only ones I ever been to. And you know, I would love it if I had the money to do the traveling to go down to the when they start up Ross Fest again down in Florida. You know, I would love to do that, but that's just, you know, the airfare and the hotel is going to just take a big bite out of my wallet.
We have a direct flight from Louisville to Fort Myers, is it, or Sarasota? On
Sarasota.
Allegiant Airlines, and it's like $49 each way. It's like $100 round trip ticket, nonstop.
Wow.
Allegiant Airlines. So, although we'd probably drive because I'm from Florida, and we'd probably use it as a chance to go visit. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back to it. When you were out in California, did you ever see Kevin Gilbert perform?
I did when he did the Lamb.
Yeah, you were there for that?
Yeah, I was there. I saw
I've seen video of it, and with Dave Kersner on the keyboards and Nick DiVirgilio on the drums. My goodness, was that good?
Oh yeah, and there's another guy that I'm trying to get some of his the musicians that worked with him while he was still alive. Sean Gurin. This guy, him and Kevin Gilbert, in my opinion, are cut from the same cloth because they.
I've heard Sean Gurin's name before. Tell me who he was with. Why am I remembering that name?
Okay, he played with Rocket Scientist for one show. He had a Genesis tribute band. He had an ELP tribute band. He did 2 solo albums. And he's one of those multi-instrumentalists, you know, anything he touches, he was able to play. His father, John Gurin, from what worked with Joni Mitchell.
Oh, wow.
And he was on, I forget what talk show in the 60s and 70s he was on, where he was the drummer for not Johnny Carson, but another one. But it was like, I want to do it, you know, like a tribute show, because whenever I mention his name, people don't know. And it's like, well, if you know Kevin Gilbert, this guy, like I said, is cut from the same cloth. You know, and they're the same area too, in the LA area.
Like Gherin, is that how he spells it, or
Guerin?
Guerin? Okay, I'll have to look that up. That'd be a cool show for you to do, Ron. Just bring on.
Yeah, I'm trying to get some of this people like what's his name, Matt Brown. He played with him, and he's the one that he's actually going to go try to connect with some of the past musicians. I want to try to get some of the guys from Rocket Scientists to see if they could come on and just, you know, even if for a few minutes, just to talk about their experience with it, you know. And he's one that again, like I think a lot of his music is going to get buried because, you know, he's not, you know, quote unquote popular within the genre. You know, he was mostly local, whereas Kevin had a more global sense because he was, I guess, because he was working outside the genre, doing other, you know, jack of all trades thing.
Yeah, I mean, he was writing with Sheryl Crow.
Yeah, so he had more on a national and global level, where Sean was more local.
Mm.
But I think, you know, that's, again, like I said, I like to promote people and make sure, you know, others find out about them, you know, especially you know, find out about your music, you know, because I really think there's people that uh, especially the ones that were into, like the classic rock sound, would like what you have to offer, and especially with Little Atlas and Grackle, because Grackle, even though you say you don't have a guitar player, but it still has that kind of vibe going there.
Yeah,
But
it kind of has a
you
guitar.
know,
I played guitar on the album, so it's got sort of a kind of guitar player. But yeah, I know
but
what
it's like, but that just promote.
you
And
appreciate it.
anything else you like to talk about? That want people out there to know.
I just, I appreciate the time on your show, and I hope folks take a little time to check out Little Atlas and my solo work and Grackle, because I'm really proud of that. And if I have an opportunity to run into folks when the world gets back to some semblance of normal, look forward to meeting folks like Alexander and some of the other folks who've been in the chat. I've met
Yeah, I
met Melanie before. Melanie and I know each other from back to some Rosfests that we attended and had some good conversations. So
yeah. There's a lot of people that I talk to on Facebook that would be nice to meet up in person. Once this thing is all over. Yeah, I've met you a couple times, Alex, down in Baja, Prague.
mm,
He used to, I remember one conversation I had with him. Well, not it wasn't me personally. It was a group of people, and he was talking about his huge record collection. I think and it was just what was like about 10,000 or 20,000 records or something like that. It was enormous. Like you could start your own record store.
but then he'd have to part
But
with them, so he wouldn't want to do
yeah, right.
that. Yeah.
But
Who's going to get Alexander's record collection when he's gone? Like, how do you what do you do with the record collection when you pass into the next world? You have to figure out 12. Wow, wow,
12,000.
that's a lot of vinyl. Very cool.
Yeah, a lot of it. But it's like again, once this pandemic is over and we can get back to some normalcy of seeing people, especially people you meet, you chat with online and do Zoom calls with or whatever, and some bands that you'd like to go see, to support, you know, if you're in the area where Steve is, and once we get back to where live shows are back, I of the videos I saw on YouTube, a lot of energy there, and it looks like it could be a lot of fun being in the audience, and um, and I kind of look forward to hopefully maybe if I can't get out to some bands, and maybe some bands will take a chance and come up to Maine.
Well, I
Not during the winter,
yeah, I want to go to Maine. We bought this little pop-up camper this year, our COVID camper, and we love camping, my wife and I, and have never seen Acadia National Park except
Oh,
on.
you'd love it there.
And the idea of bringing the camper up there in the summertime and just seeing the cliffs and the birds and the natural beauty of, because we've seen it. So if we go that direction, Ron, we definitely would love to say hey, stop by.
Oh yeah, that'll be fantastic. That's storage unit. Oh man, losing it all.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. You can't lose your Bandcamp. You can't lose your Bandcamp downloads. So that's the good news about Bandcamp. Always go.
yeah, and especially if you back them up onto a cloud or something,
Yep. Yeah.
your own personal cloud. Because I have that OneDrive and I put some movies that I downloaded off of YouTube and some music that I on my CDs to put them on there for me to listen to, when, especially stuff that I can't find on any of the streaming sites or anything where, so I do it that way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I'm sure that's,
this has been a fun couple hours. It's flown. It's been 2 hours.
oh yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And I'm gonna put this is when this goes up on YouTube. I'm gonna put the links to your music down below, and also people should go and check out your videos on YouTube. You know, put in the search engine Little Atlas or Grackle, and you'll find a lot of live stuff, especially from Little Atlas. And
we have the Little Atlas, the entire set at Rozfest is up there. So you can see our entire hour plus set from 2005, the 4, 5, 6, the inaugural, the first Rozfest in Phoenixville. So we put that all up there. So folks can watch that. We've got our show from 2 years ago when we played at Progtoberfest in Chicago. So we did a 6-song, we did a set there. So that's all up there. So in a sense, folks can see what the band is like live, or if they like to enjoy the recorded material, they can do that too.
Okay, yeah, all up there on YouTube, and then, like I said, I'll put your links to your you can send me privately all your links that you want me to put in the description bar, so people can get in contact with you.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Steve. I really, really appreciate this. It was really cool to talk to you.
You too, Ron. Thank you very much, and have a good rest of your weekend, and stay warm.
All right. All right. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Bye.